right, good morning, everybody, and welcome to this week's virtual plant clinic. My name is Bill Lester. I'm with University of Florida Extension Service here in Hernando County, and joining me today are my two regular co-hosts, and we all three have not been together on the same screen here for quite a few weeks between hurricanes, meetings. I had to go somewhere. I took a Thursday off. But joining me today is our Hernando County Florida Friendly Landscape Coordinator, Colby Pitts. Good morning, Colby. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing well.
And one of our Master Gardener volunteers, Bernie. Good morning, Bernie. How are you?
Good morning, Doctor.
And Bernie wasn't here last week, I believe, because he had internet problems. So we've just been plagued with problems, I guess.
Actually, I was here, just you couldn't see me.
Yep. Just couldn't get you online. So, as always, if any of you watching us live have any questions, comments, any lawn and garden questions, vegetable gardens, fruit trees, let's see what else, flooding, septic tanks, fertilizer, irrigation, any questions on any of those topics, please feel free to go ahead and put them in the comments, and we'll do our very best to answer them. And if you're watching a recording of this, if you watch for a little bit longer, I'll put all of our emails up, and you can email us directly with those questions, pictures, whatever it might be. So we do have a few people on here watching us live. Good morning, Bassem. How are you? And good morning, Nancy. How are you doing? I see that we have a few more people than that watching us also. So, we're set up every week to broadcast on one Facebook channel and two YouTube channels. So, no matter how you're watching us or where you're from or where you live in Florida, go ahead and ask your question. We've had people follow us before from other states. Had a gentleman from Michigan. I had a lady who tuned into one of my Zoom classes from South Dakota. That was pretty interesting. Don't know how she found out about it, but she was there. We have people who follow us way down in South Florida, others who are in Florida, but just about on the Georgia state line. So wherever you live, jump right in and ask a question.
One of the problems is up until just recently, we've been promoting that this is the time to garden. And unfortunately, a lot of our viewers have had a water problem where if they tried to have a garden, it would be underwater. So, we may have to change some of our advice. But those of you that were fortunate enough to have good drainage and not be flooded, we hope that your gardens are started and going well. And those of you that are underwater, you're probably going to end up missing a gardening season. And unfortunately, we hope that that's the worst of your problems. But this has been a very unusual situation for us. And on top of that, the mosquitoes are breeding like crazy. This couldn't have been a better year for mosquitoes.
And as a matter of fact, next Thursday, we're supposed to have a special guest on here with us. Alyssa Haas from Hernando County Mosquito Control is going to be joining us talking about mosquitoes. And I'll just kind of leave all that to her, all the recommendations for protecting yourself, because when we get huge amounts of rain and large amounts of standing water, a few weeks after that, we end up with a lot of extra mosquitoes. So very, very important that you protect yourself from mosquito bites. They can transmit diseases. They hurt. They make you itch like crazy. We don't want to see any of that. And unfortunately, if you're out there working in your garden, you're going to be out there with the mosquitoes and everything else that might be living in your yard. So we'll have Alyssa on next week to help make sure everybody's safe out there when they're out working in their yards.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting because I've been seeing some mosquitoes, different variety than what we would normally have. And Instead of a little tiny stylus, they've made a pretty nasty hole in my arm. So, been a very bloody event, and I'm kind of concerned. Where did these new mosquitoes come from? So it looks like we're going to get the answer to that. So I'll look forward to her being here.
The I
She
know.
works. Oh, go
Go
ahead.
ahead. I know
You
that I know that they I know that FDAX is the like kind of push forward. They're doing. I think they start their aerial spraying tomorrow. Um, over in those standing water affected areas over on the east side of the county. I don't know all the details, but I'm sure that Alyssa will be able to fill us in tomorrow. I just saw one of the county's press releases talking about it.
Yeah, I know that she works closely with their technicians. They have technicians that they go out and they trap mosquitoes and they dump them all on a table and they go through and pick out exactly what species they are. I can't do that. I'm sure I could learn. I'm pretty good with insect ID. I just never had to differentiate between different species of mosquitoes. So if there's any, I wouldn't think that we have any new mosquitoes here in the county. There are invasive species and new species of mosquitoes that end up in Florida on a regular basis, mostly in South Florida. So I'm not aware of any current issues here at the moment. But if there are, I mean, she would know about them. She would know from the technicians about what species they're seeing and how many they're seeing, and an uptick in this type, and
I know that there may be 100 different mosquitoes that we have in the state. One of my ecology professors in uh, undergrad was that was his lab that did mosquito work at UCF, and the, the thing with the mosquitoes is they're actually really hard to differentiate because they all look incredibly similar but are distinct species, that's a kind of a common thread with a lot of insects, but
mm-hmm.
mosquitoes especially. There's so many of them that are just black or white spots, um, and if you're not, you have to have a really trained eye, I think.
Yeah, they have identification keys for mosquitoes, and mosquitoes, of course, are very small, so you're looking under a microscope, a dissecting microscope, to get a good look at them. And I think it really is one of those things where you're counting hairs.
Mm-hmm.
How many hairs does it have on its back leg? 3 or 4, and that kind of differentiates what specific species it is. Teresa is with us today, and I know that I could not make it through the day, let alone the week here at the office without Teresa's help. She says that we have 80 species here in Florida. Globally, there's about 3,500 species of mosquitoes. So there's a lot of them that aren't in Florida. It may seem like they're all here, but they're really not all here yet. One of the smallest, oh, she got kind of cut off there. But here's a link to more information. And the problem is that right now we have and this number unfortunately goes up on a fairly regular basis, about 80 species here in Florida. There are species, and they keep looking, and unfortunately they'll find a new one, another new one, another new one, and then they're wondering, can this new species vector diseases? I don't know. What kind of diseases could it pick up and spread? Because not every mosquito species spreads every different disease. So University of Florida has researchers and specialists that work on it on a regular basis. I need to invite her on here sometime, and I'll reach out to her and try to get her on here. I'll reach out and see if she's free next Thursday at 10 a.m. So
The some of the biocontrol stuff with mosquitoes, super interesting. I know that a couple years ago they released a bunch of them in the Keys, uh, that they're genetically modified to produce the larvae die. They die. The female, which are the ones that bite, they die in the larval stage. So it's like there's a ton of money, a ton of research time poured into mosquito biocontrol specifically. And I think it's neat because a lot of times your biocontrol is a predator insect that, for insects anyway, it's a predator insect that introduced to kill prey, which doesn't always work out great. But this one, they're actually using the same species as biocontrol, which is, I think, super interesting.
Yeah, when we first moved to Florida, they were using a DC-3 to spray for mosquitoes, and people really resented the fact that we were putting so much chemical down, and they finally stopped using it. Well, now we're back in those conditions again where it's going to be really bad if they don't do something. This amount of water is just a totally new event for the state. This is something that, it's once in a lifetime, but once in a lifetime, if it's your lifetime, it presents some serious problems. And the mosquitoes are a part of it, but they're only a little part. So you can just imagine how bad it is if you're one of the affected people.
Okay, Bernie's fans are on here. And before everybody starts jumping in, whether you're watching this live or recorded, before you start blowing up the comments, because I know there's a lot surrounding mosquito control that can be controversial. People don't like the idea of aerial spraying. People don't like the idea of genetically modified mosquitoes. I can point out that mosquito vector diseases, which we don't normally deal with here in the U.S. I mean, you probably don't know too many people who've had yellow fever, malaria, all these tropical diseases. They are spread by mosquitoes, so that's an important other point. So before you start blowing us or me up today, come back next Thursday when we have some experts on here and save all your hopefully well thought out, polite questions for them. And they would be more than happy to shed more light on that than we probably want to get too deep into today.
Mm-hmm.
So with that being said, will the spray affect butterflies and other pollinators too? As a general rule, no, because the planes fly and distribute the pesticide at night, and butterflies and most other pollinators are out during the day.
Mm-hmm. Most of those are contact, I believe. So it's like they have to actually be hit by it.
Yeah, I know. I can tell you that with the good old-fashioned truck spraying, and I'm sure, Colby, did you ever ride your bike behind the truck?
No, I tend to just stay away from
Bernie,
it.
I'm sure you did, right?
We did. I started out up north. We didn't have that, but if I'd been here, I'd probably done that.
Yeah. I grew up in Maryland, and I'm not sure if we rode behind the truck, but I remember seeing it when I was a kid, even in Maryland, because Maryland and Washington, D.C. used to just be a mosquito swamp like 200 or more years ago before it turned into huge Washington, D.C. So I know that when they spray from a truck, the pesticide is aerosolized, so it's an actual aerosol that just kind of floats, and it has to land on a mosquito to affect it. So I know that much. And I noticed that everything in the environment is either eats something else or is eaten by somebody else. So lots of mosquitoes are going to feed lots of little frogs, because I'm sure we have a population explosion of different frogs, toads, everything else that lives in shallow standing water or even deeper standing water, because we have so much of it. So they're all trying to keep each other in balance, but we're about to get a huge mosquito outbreak, and that can cause some major health problems.
Yeah, the little toads and the frogs. Actually, we had started with an outbreak. This was a super year for toads and frogs in our county, and that occurred even before the hurricane started. So, with the timing of all this and the increase in insects now, a lot of those toads and frogs will have an opportunity to survive where they wouldn't have before. And I think next year will be the year that really shows what this year produced. That I can remember one time back. I was probably in my mid 20s. Well, when I went out to get gas one night, and the entire gas station drive, all the concrete was completely covered with frogs. I've never seen that number ever, except for that one night. And I think it would be so neat to have that again. I'd hate the fact that most of them are going to get run over, but uh, you know, uh, when you have one of those mammoth outbreaks like that, you remember it. And I think there's going to be a lot of things that are going to be memorable, maybe good, maybe bad, come as a result of these last couple of hurricanes.
Maybe we'll have a big outbreak of dragonflies. That'd be fine
That
with
would
me.
be
I like
neat.
dragonflies.
I had probably 25 damselflies in the yard last night, so
Hmm.
that would make sense.
Yeah, that'd be nice. That'd be a nice, impact of everything that's happened. So Teresa was kind enough to post a link to some University of Florida information on mosquito repellents, what works, what doesn't work, how well they work, and you probably really want to pull them out of the drawer and start using them when you're working outdoors for a while, because we're going to have a lot of extra mosquitoes out there.
Yeah, I leave the door open so the dogs can go in and out. And as soon as it gets dark, I have to close the door because the mosquitoes really start pouring in. So,
Yeah, we have other ones that fly primarily during the day, other ones that fly primarily at dawn and dusk. So out of those 80 species of mosquitoes, we have a lot of them here. Alyssa will probably, I'm sure she knows exactly how many.
Mhm.
Um, and if you have any questions or problems in your neighborhood and you need to contact Hernando County Mosquito Control, Teresa put up a link to, I assume, their website. You can contact them. I know that if you're having mosquito problems, you can contact them and report it. And they are busy right now, and they are stretched thin, and they are on a budget. I'm sure it's not an unlimited budget for payroll, but they will do their very best to make it out to your house to try to help you figure out why you have so many mosquito problems. Unfortunately, if it's because of standing water out in the woods, the forest, flooding problems, we're just going to have to be patient, wait till that dries up. But a lot of people contribute to the problem. Hopefully, nobody watching us has a lot of old used tires laying in their backyard, even worse, their front yard, or buckets of water. Or if you have gutters on your house, if they're not hung correctly, they'll hold puddles of water, and you can't see it from ground level. But if you have a puddle of water up there in that gutter, you are breeding mosquitoes. And everybody needs to be part of the solution, not a bigger part of the problem.
I think all these extra little insects are really helping our lizards. And, you know, it's kind of an interesting thing. If you're in Florida, you're so used to lizards that they don't mean much to you. But if you're from up north and this is your first visit to Florida, it's the most exciting thing we've got. They're common, they're readily visible, and people just love them. So unless it's so cold that they're falling out of the trees, the tourists go around looking at the lizards and not paying attention to much else.
Bassem says planting lemongrass, which I have in my yard. Lemongrass, guys, grows like a weed. I haven't tried to get rid of it, but it's probably tough to get rid of. It does really, really well, especially when we get regular rain. Scented geraniums work well for me to keep mosquitoes away. So planting those kind of plants, a lot of times for them to be effective, you have to take the plant, crush it, and rub it on yourself. Just the fact that it's growing in your yard is not necessarily going to encourage or deter an insect.
Well, a lot of times if people take the time to plant things to deter the insects, they also are responsible enough that they're doing the other things that it takes to keep the insect population down too. So I'm sure that he has no standing water, no tires laying in the yard, no hubcaps full of water, those kind of things. So, you know, being a responsible citizen gains you a lot of things that you don't see as a big sign someplace that this guy has done everything possible to eliminate insects out of his yard. But you know, if you do those things, there's a little satisfaction internal that you've done something right, and it helps everybody. So we do appreciate it, and you know, we're talking to the choir here. We're not really preaching because uh, we learned as much from you guys with your questions as we pass on in information. So we really appreciate the questions, and I know that to me the questions are probably the best source information that we have. What I hear on the phone here in the extension, and what we see scrolled across the bottom, and what you guys send us is very, very important. So never be afraid to send us something. We appreciate it.
So, Bernie, is it too late to apply pre-emergent now because somebody didn't get to it yet?
The truth is, it's never too late to apply pre-emergent. There's always something that the pre-emergent is going to work on. And pre-emergents are not a one-shot thing. It's not you put it down today and it only takes care of the weed seeds for today. Generally, they have like a 30 to 60 day, maybe 90-day period where they're functional. And during that period, there's something that's going to come up that you don't want. So it always works to put pre-emergent down. Sometimes it's more effective than others. So if you haven't done it and you're really trying to develop a great yard, the pre-emergent is the absolute best way to go. It takes 2 to 3 years before you really see real good results from pre-emergent. But once you do see it, it really is spectacular. And it has to do with if you assume that in a square yard there's 500,000 seeds sitting there waiting to develop, and you spray pre-emergent and it takes out 90% of the seeds. Now we've got 5,000 seeds sitting there waiting to generate a plant, and some of those are going to come up. But next year, after the seeds that these new plants have generated and what's still there, we've only got 10,000. And if we can get 90% again, now we've only got 10. And the next year, we're dealing with maybe 100, and we get it down to just 1 or 2 plants. And with any kind of system going at all with a weed killer, you're down into the point where the weeds are pretty well gone. The grass is now so thick that it tends to shade out those weeds. And by just using a little pre-emergent, you can keep the lawn really under control. It's a fantastic system. And the beautiful part about it is it doesn't kill anything, doesn't damage anything. All it does is stop the seeds from germinating.
It's just part of the solution. So you have to have patience and you have to have realistic expectations. If your heart is set on having a 100% perfect lawn with absolutely no weeds, you can get there, but it's going to be a lot of work, a lot of money, and a lot of physical labor too.
Yeah, golf courses do it. You know, a golf course green is a wonderful thing. All you have to have is somebody to go out there every day, water it the exact amount, mow it with a real mower so that you cut it exactly the right height, give it an exact amount of fertilizer, every condition perfect, and do it every day, 365 days a year. Man, you can have a beautiful lawn. But
yeah, just hire a couple of full-time employees.
Yeah.
Put them on your own personal payroll, and should look good. And I see Teresa's putting all kinds of links to great information here to give people a little bit of extra reading material.
It's amazing what you can find online, and it's amazing how wrong so much of it is. So, if you go online and you read something from one of the universities, University of Florida, University of Arizona, University of Illinois, those places are all really research based information, and what we tell you in Florida will also apply in Illinois if the conditions are the same. So you get the same advice, but you get it for a specific location dealing with the different universities. But if you deal with Joe's Plant Shop, and Joe's Plant Shop is in Augusta, Maine, and you're using Joe's information to grow something in Miami, the odds are it ain't going to work. So really be careful. If 8 or 9 people all agree that this works fine in Hernando County, that's one thing. But don't look at somebody in California and expect it to be true. If you're in California, dichondra makes a beautiful lawn. If you're in Hernando County, dichondra would make a beautiful lawn, except it's going to die just overnight because you can't give it the water, and you don't have the soil that they have, and you don't have the same Mediterranean climate conditions. But both plants will grow. It's just one grows well enough to make a lawn in California, and only grows well enough to take your hunt here in Florida.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sitting here on my phone on Facebook thinking that if you want to find really legitimate questions but really, really bad advice, just join a lot of different Facebook gardening groups and start reading those posts. We should start doing this as a regular segment.
Just finding some terrible advice.
Well, vinegar and brown sugar is the absolute best thing for killing weeds. You know that.
Here, we'll go ahead and do this together, guys. So I'm not going to say what group it is, but it is a Facebook gardening group in Florida. And the question for the person is, they heard about putting banana skins into water and using it to fertilize palm trees. Fast forward, I did put some chopped up banana peels in big jars. Now I'm looking at something that looks like sewerage on my counter and asking myself, now what? So, Bernie, what do banana peels contain?
Well, they have potassium. So obviously, if you want potassium on your plant, a banana peel would be a much better source than fertilizer, because you can get this rotten, stinking thing that'll turn brown, and it'll be a much better deal. And it's free, as opposed to the amount of fertilizer you need, which is probably 10 cents worth.
Yeah. Well, we have quite a few comments on here. So the first one, and it's amazing because it's always a mix of good advice and really awful advice. But for somebody who doesn't know as they're going through, I always kind of wonder, are they going to pick the good advice or the bad advice, or hedge their bets?
Whatever's easier most of the time.
So somebody says, it's a myth. Don't waste your time. Compost those peels instead, which is great advice. If you make compost at home, and we encourage everybody to do that because it reduces the amount of stuff going to the landfill, the important thing to remember is moderation. So throwing a variety of stuff in there, not all banana peels, maybe you like bananas a lot, but some banana peels, some vegetable scraps, some leaves, some clean wood ashes, some of this, some of that, is a great idea because you get a really good variety of nutrients in the mix. Here's somebody who says, we've seen a tremendous difference between plants we've given banana water and the same plants that didn't receive it. The canna lily on the left is the one we used as a test. The ones on the right we just watered. This is just one example, but consistently what we are seeing is among the plants that benefit from whatever the bananas provide. So I have a picture of 2 canna lilies here, kind of a small picture. Okay, one canna lily has a beautiful flower inflorescence. The other one looks like it's kind of bloomed out. So kind of scientific, yeah,
Yeah,
not
that's incredibly anecdotal, I think, and that's something a little life advice from Colby here. You need to make sure whatever it is that you're looking at, make sure you're not looking at. You want empirical, researched evidence for whatever decision you're trying to make. Don't just go off of some guy saying, "Hey, it's this," and most of the time that information is not going to come on Facebook unless you're on one of our pages where we give you
exactly.
empirical researched data.
How about coffee grounds? You hear about coffee grounds all the time. That the most wonderful thing that you could possibly use, just coffee grounds.
Coffee grounds are fine. Really, all these things in moderation, composted, and then you work the compost back in your garden, they all work fine. Coffee grounds are technically acidic, but you would probably need literally a dump truck load of coffee grounds composted to actually push your pH in your garden way down.
And
So
you have to remember too, anytime you're trying to change your pH, there's always going to be overtime or regression to mean. It's going to go back eventually to whatever it was when you started. And that's especially the case with trying to lower your pH, trying to get a more acidic. Because you could put all sorts of stuff down that will make it more acidic for a few weeks, and then
yeah,
it rains once, and you're back to
it's just
what you
temporary.
started at.
It's always going to drift back to what it was naturally.
Mm-hmm.
But coffee grounds are fine. Now, if you're in a position where you have a coffee shop or you're bringing home like 55-gallon trash cans every day of coffee grounds, that's different. We're talking about people who drink normal amounts of coffee, or even myself who, drinks good amounts of coffee. I compost my grounds and it hasn't caused a problem with anything. But it's best to compost it, and I even noticed on that banana peel thread, people were saying, you take the peels and just chuck them in your garden, throw it at the base of your plant. It's going to break down. It's going to go away. It's not something's going to eat it. It doesn't really hurt anything. But the best thing to do is save all those things, compost them, keep working to compost in your garden, and that's going to give you the best.
So one, to kind of to go off of this, I wonder, and this might be a good little research project for somebody. If you dehydrate, right, you dehydrate those banana peels and then grind them up very fine. I wonder if you can get a good amount of potassium out of that. I wonder. I know that I did a science fair project one time where I dehydrated a bunch of orange peels, ground them up into a very fine powder to remove textile dye from water, and it worked really well. They're very, absorbent. But I wonder if you could get some kind of non-negligible amount of nutrient if you dehydrate enough banana peels and powdered enough banana peels. I wonder if that would actually do anything.
It should, depending on the level of the amount of potassium in a normal banana peel. If it's a worthwhile amount, that's how they make a lot of different organic fertilizers.
Mm-hmm.
They take the byproducts, bagasse, which is squeezed out sugar cane, blood meal, bone meal, all these other things that contain a good amount of nitrogen or phosphorus or whatever it might be. They grind it, they dry it, they condense it, and now you have a shelf-stable fertilizer you can apply. It has a good amount of that nutrient, but you still have to have microbes, bacteria and fungi, consume it and cycle it for it to work. So if you really, really like bananas and you're going through a couple of bunches a day, you may be able to overcome your palm tree's potassium deficiency that way,
You probably need a lot of.
it's going to take a lot of bananas out.
Well, you have to remember too, if you were to dehydrate and then powder a single banana peel, you're gonna end up with this much. It's gonna be nothing. So
Yeah.
must really like bananas, I suppose, if that's going to be a viable option.
Somebody had
I've
asked
never
me,
seen it on the market. My guess is if it was pretty viable, somebody would have a niche type of fertilizer based on it. So, Bernie, Bill has a
well,
very sunny, dry, unirrigated area in his backyard that even the Bermuda grass isn't happy growing in anymore. Any idea for a ground cover? And it looks like he has root competition there also.
well, the first thing you need to do is to get a soil test. You need to know the pH and you need to know what nutrients are there. I mean, it's very possible that this area has some unique characteristic, and most of the things you plant are not going to do well if you don't take care of that characteristic. Assume that uh, it has an 8 pH. Uh, you know, with a pH that high, things are not going to do well. There's very few plants that will survive it unless you do some modifications. And the same thing if the pH is down at the 5 range, you're really hurting. If you had a 5 pH, most plants won't do well, but maybe Bahia would work in that area. So you need to know what's there before you even go to the next step. So uh, the basics are the right plant in the right place. Well, you don't know what the place is. All you know is that the plants that were there weren't the right plants. So uh, I would recommend you get a soil test. It's $10. They tell you the pH and they tell you all the minerals. And with that information, then you can come back and we can make a recommendation.
And Nancy asked, should she cut back damaged banana leaves to encourage growth? And she's in Hernando County in Brooksville. Yes, if you have a banana plant and a leaf has turned brown and died, whether that's from a disease, whether it got too dry, whether it got damaged in the hurricane winds, you can go ahead and clip that off, and that's going to encourage more growth. Hopefully, we'll have a pleasant winter this year. And if we do have any cold weather, it won't get too horribly cold where it's going to cause major damage to things like bananas and other things. Last winter was the first year my bananas did not suffer any damage at all. And they're bigger than ever right now. I have one huge one. Boy, it got beat up by those hurricane winds, though. But it still looks pretty good. And hopefully it's going to flower soon. And maybe I'll actually get bananas for the first time in my life. I've never gotten bananas before because they always freeze back in the winter.
Do you fertilize your bananas, Bill?
Yeah, I just use 666. There are better fertilizer formulations. You can go online and get the specific fertilizer for bananas. You can get it on Amazon. I can't remember the formulation off the top of my head. It's close to balanced, close to like a 666 or 10-10-10, but a little bit different.
Yeah, bananas, because of the extreme growth that they've got, are kind of fertilizer hogs, and a lot
And
of
water
people
hogs.
don't fertilize, don't water, and if they get a season where they get bananas, they don't produce uh, very good bananas because they were starved basically for their entire growth period. So if you want to raise bananas, you need to treat them a little better than what you can't just plant them and forget them.
Yeah, yeah. Although some people do. I know patches that are like completely neglected. It's just a patch of bananas in the edge of the woods. And the patch, if it gets big enough, at least one of them is getting bananas. So So Bassem does something that a lot of people do, and it's absolutely fine. He takes eggshells, coffee grounds, banana peels, things like that, and grinds them up and uses them in his plants with great results. That's absolutely fine because here in Florida, it will break down, it will compost in place, it will decay very quickly on its own. Those nutrients, none of them are going to hurt your plants. Might not be a perfect balance, so if you put them around plant A, it may be providing plenty of this nutrient, this nutrient, this nutrient, but not so much of this one. So you may want to fertilize on top of that a little bit at least, depending on what kind of plant we're talking about. But for most plants, that's going to work just fine.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing in that you need microbial growth in the soil. Very, very important. And a lot of these things aren't actually helping the plant; they're helping the microbes. And if you take care of the microbes, they'll help take care of the plants. So a lot of the organic things, a lot of the organic things that had sugars uh, are really great to jumpstart the microbes. If you have powdered sand, the sugar sand stuff, it might not hurt to just add microbes. Those are available, the little plant bugs, so plant germs, and they make a dramatic difference. It makes all the nutrients available. Those are the things that turn the sand into a liquid that the plants can absorb.
Mm-hmm.
Plants do not use the sand itself at all.
Here we go. I was looking for something.
Ah, you look so serious. There we go.
I'm trying to get the correct link here. Here, I'm going to put this in the comments. This is a class that we gave on growing bananas in Central Florida. So that link should take you to the correct class. And I can even double check that on here. Okay, that should be correct. That's a class that we offer once before on growing bananas here in Central Florida. And when the weather does not get terribly cold in the winter, not even for a night or two, it makes it a lot easier. So Anne Marie says she uses the 10-10-10 and had 4 large pods. She waited for several years. They're on the ground from the hurricane, still attached. So she's going to wait and see. She freezes the bananas to make them last longer. And happy you finally got some. I haven't gotten them yet. I'm still hoping to get them. A lot of times if they do well through the winter and then through the spring and summer, at the very end of summer, you finally get that one shoot that's going to give you the bananas on it. Banana plants, it's a function of how many leaves it has made. So depending on the variety, after it puts out a certain number of leaves, the next one will be the stalk with the fruit. So hopefully I'm almost there. And Nancy asks, what about kale? Is it best to start with direct seed or transplants? Kale is, you guys all like kale?
Yeah.
I like kale, not necessarily my favorite. Kale is very, very healthy for you, though. Kale is very, very nutritious, green, and it grows really, really well here in Central Florida during the winter. So now is the perfect time to start it growing. You can get kale up and growing, and you could be picking it all winter long until about March. After March, give it up. It's time to pull it up. It's only going to go downhill as the weather gets hotter. Kale, you can start either directly planting the seeds in your garden or transplants. At this point of year, I would think direct seed is going to be easier. So you can seed it directly. Something you need to watch out for is the weather here has been beautiful, very, very sunny, warm, kind of cool overnight, cool early in the morning, sunny, sunny, oh so sunny with no rain. So if you're planting seeds out in your garden, you're going to have to water on a regular basis to keep moist to have them germinate. Tough for me to do because where am I at? I'm at the office. Where's my garden? It's at home. What's not getting watered at the moment? My garden. So
I had a kale smoothie one time, and I did not ever have another kale smoothie. So that's my little sister's name is Kale, spelled differently, and that's just what I always think of. But no, this smoothie was gross.
was it green?
Oh, it was very green.
The green ones are better for you.
Oh, I'm sure it was great for me.
Mm-hmm.
It was great for my health. It was not good for my mental state at the time. I was like, this is awful. I don't understand why I did this, but good on you if you drink those regularly.
Well, Nancy likes kale. Bassem likes kale salad. Very nutritious and delicious. Kale, you can have it in a lot of different Italian recipes. You can put it in certain kinds of soup, and I think it's great. It's tough to sneak past my wife. She likes raw spinach and spinach in different recipes. Kale is a tough one to sneak past her. And Swiss chard, she hates Swiss chard. She thinks it smells terrible. So,
And see, I'm a big fan of like raw baby spinach. I haven't tried using kale instead. Maybe I'll give it another go.
kale it's thicker and tougher.
Mm-hmm.
So not everybody likes the physical consistency. And Alessandra's half her banana went down during Helene. She cut the remaining banana leaves in half, and they're perfectly fine during Milton. That's great. Yeah, Milton. I don't normally get nervous during storms, but Milton's winds got a few miles an hour worse than other recent ones. I started to get a little nervous. And that northeast wind, the way it was blowing against the windows for hours at night, made me a little nervous. So we got suggestions for Colby here. Try more apple in that kale smoothie.
And I love apples. We'll have to. I'll have to update you on that one. That's gonna be a tough one to do.
I'm on your side, Colby. I don't want any more smoothies either. Period.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't like. I don't. Maybe that wasn't my best introduction to kale because I'm not a big smoothie guy at all.
A strawberry smoothie is about as bad as I can get. It is vegetable smoothies. Vegetables were made to be eaten with salt, not mixed in a blender.
We had a smoothie king.
I'm going to plan an episode where we feature smoothies, and we'll work out somehow to get some different recipes and have somebody making them. Colby, you may have to come over to the office here because once we have somebody make you a kale smoothie.
Yeah, we'll put maybe an apple smoothie with a side of kale. It sounds a little bit more appetizing. We had a smoothie king. There's a smoothie king on campus at UCF, and the first time I went there, I was like, "Oh man, this is gonna be great." I don't, it's a quick little lunch I can get, and nope, not a smoothie guy. Yeah, I even got a peanut butter one. I was like, "This is not for me."
I've never tried a peanut butter one. I love peanut butter pie.
Me too. I've never had a peanut butter pie. I love peanut butter. What do you put in a peanut butter
No.
pie?
If you've never tried peanut butter pie, it's fantastic. I think I've only had it once or twice, and it's delicious.
I've never even heard of peanut butter in a pie. That's crazy.
Well, maybe if we have like a pie making contest or episode over here, maybe that would go over a little bit better. Because you generally are not we're trying to work kale into pies.
Please do not show up with a kale pie. I will, and I'll be unhappy. I'll say that.
Anne Marie dries the kale and makes a powder of it to toss in protein shakes. You can do that. I dehydrate a lot of things and grind it into a powder. I do hot peppers and Cuban oregano. If you have a Cuban oregano plant, you could dry those leaves, grind it, and now you have your own ground oregano for any kind of Cuban recipes you're making. So dried kale, maybe we could try that.
I mean, I like dried peppers. I like the pepper powder. That's
Oh yeah, I use that stuff all the time. I use it in Asian food, and of course anything Mexican. I could put it in my fajita seasoning. I have everything from very, very mild dried peppers up to pretty darn hot dried pepper. Haven't grown or dried any super hot ones.
I've put that cayenne pepper, like cayenne pepper powder on like ribs before you put them in the smoker, and I'd like that a lot. I really like spicy food.
And we talked about having a special about grilling one of the lizards down in South Florida. Iguanas, grilling iguanas. So I haven't forgotten that one. Do you know how expensive they are to mail order iguana meat?
It'd probably be cheaper with the gas to just go get one yourself.
We could go on a road trip to Miami.
Man, I think you could get them in like Venice. It's like an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Probably. I don't know how around Tampa area how widespread they are there. They move fairly far north.
I haven't seen any in Tampa. I've seen some of the smaller guys, Sarasota, Venice area, and then you get real down south. I've seen dinosaurs in like Deerfield Beach or
yeah. I know in Miami, one of our kids lived there, and he had a house on a canal. So you go in the backyard, you look at all the other backyards up and down the canal. They're all over the place, just sunning themselves. Little ones and big ones and medium ones. They're all over the darn place.
I was in Jupiter a few weeks ago, and there was those tons of way larger lizards. So like I didn't see any green or green anoles or anything like that. I'm sure because these bigger lizards have eaten all of them. But there was those ones that I don't know what they're called, but they run. One where I saw one, the house we were staying had a pool, and we saw one run across the pool water, which was nuts. I was like, what? Where are we? Jurassic Park down here.
They have tegu lizards down there. There are monitor lizards. Tegu lizards, I've been told, are really, really nasty. They're stinky. They bite. They're horrible pets. Monitor lizards are present in South Florida. I don't think that they're really widespread, but I'm not sure. And you have several small ones that are invasive that are now present in South Florida. And they will all move north and stop when they have to stop because of weather conditions.
Those monitor lizards I remember reading something like getting bit by one is really dangerous because they're so nasty. They have so many, it's like a guaranteed bacterial infection almost by getting, bit or scratched by one of those.
That's how they catch their prey. I saw that on a National Geographic special. Monitor lizards will try to chase down an animal like a deer or something like that and bite it because their mouths are so filthy. It gives the animal a guaranteed infection, and they will keep an eye on it and follow it. And because they have such nasty bacteria in their mouths, the animal will pass away. Dinner for the monitor lizards.
If you want some nightmare fuel, go look at one of those monitor lizards running full speed. It's pretty scary.
They generally move slow, but if they have to, they will chase down an animal to bite it. But they're not really good at like a lion catching it.
No, they're not going to hawk something down and tackle it.
They wait.
It's almost scarier, I think.
Yeah. So I think the ones, believe it or not, some people have them for pets. We definitely don't encourage it. But for zoos and this and that, they have to, if you give monitor lizards good, clean food, it cleans up their mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Their
Because
mouths,
they're eating
bacteria are
carrion.
nasty because they're like buzzards. They eat nothing
Mhm.
but decaying stuff.
Mhm.
So since today is Halloween, guys, that's what you get for Halloween on here.
Scary running monitor lizards to give you bacterial infections.
To give you a nightmare tonight.
Ooh.
So let's go back to some legitimate questions here. Barbara asked, do you have any information that she can present to her HOA to convert their front yards to more eco-friendly? She raises monarchs and they love porterweed. Yes, we have a ton of information, and the majority of that information is through Colby because that's what he does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if Bill, if you could actually put my email up there, this is we actually have myself and a dozen or so other FFL agents around the state. We're in like a working group where that's all we talk about is just how to talk to HOAs. I know that link that Teresa put in the chat is a really, really, really good link for kind of the baseline strategies. But then you get into a little bit more specific. What I'll tell you is that the main thing that they want to know is a plan and what it looks like when it's done. The purpose of an HOA is to make sure that everybody's house is presentable, or so they say. So you want to make sure that when you're planning, when you're picking, that you can't pick anything that looks too crazy because they will tell you no. And the making sure that you have a plan and examples of these finished results of when, after whatever ground cover you choose is nice and established and full, what that looks like. And you want to, give them kind of your best case scenario for what that's going to look like. But if you send me an email, I have all kinds of information and plenty of advice. And if you need, I'll even come talk to them for you. So that's, give a presentation to your HOA. I've done that before. I think FFL is a really great resource for this specific situation.
Yes, it helps. And a lot of times HOAs, they just don't understand because chances are somebody has gone before you and kind of ruined it for everybody. Like the people who, and I don't know if this is really happening at HOA, but there was a big stink in Orlando a few years ago. People wanted to just plow up their whole front yard and plant corn, and other neighbors objected, and code enforcement got stuck in the middle of it. So if now personally, I wouldn't have a problem with seeing if my next door neighbor had their whole front yard planted in corn. Honestly, that wouldn't bother me. More power to you. That's your yard. I hope your corn does great. If you end up with too much corn, I'll take some. That's great too. But that's just me. Not everybody looks at things like I do.
Yeah, that's why you're not on the HOA board.
Yeah, they wouldn't want me working for code enforcement. Yeah, that's okay. It's your yard. You do what you want. So, Alessandra, like I mentioned, Bernie, this morning, she was on our class yesterday, and first thing she asked was, where's Bernie? So, Bernie is here on the plant clinic. We do other classes on Central District YouTube channel where Bernie is not there. So, Alessandra, yeah, I figured out that it was you. That was the first question we got was, where's Bernie?
The amazing thing is, being here at this place is like being at a big clinic every day. It is amazing what you learn, and all the little programs that get put on are just a snapshot of what's happening a lot of the time here. So I appreciate the education I've gotten here. It's amazing what I've learned because when I started, I came in and I said, look, I know absolutely nothing, but I'd really like to learn. Please let me be a master gardener. And it took probably 4 years before I became really comfortable with what was going on. But you learn so much, and it's such a big variety. If you have the time and the inclination it's a wonderful thing to do. I really enjoy it. So, uh, some great people here and a tremendous amount of knowledge.
So I am sharing our emails at the very bottom of your screen there. Also, the phone number for our office if you'd like to get in touch with Bernie. Bernie is here on Thursdays. You can call him, you can email him, you can stop by here and meet him in person if you'd like to. Our Master Gardeners have a nursery. They are there Wednesday mornings and Saturday mornings from 8:30 in the morning until noon. And they have a wonderful selection of native and Florida-friendly plants for you to pick from. Almost all ornamental landscape plants. Very, very little edible. Very few trees. Very, very few fruit trees. So keep that in mind.
Really good source for natives.
If you're interested in watching any of our recorded classes that we have done in the past, if you go on YouTube and go to that little search bar at the very top and start typing in Hernando County Government, Hernando County Government has a YouTube channel. And if you go there and look under the playlists, there's one for Extension, which is me, and there's one for Florida Friendly Landscaping, which is, other way, Colby, right there. And you can watch a lot of classes, get a lot of information. They can be on very, very wide open topics, more specific topics. I have a lot on growing specific crops, bananas, dragon fruit, Barbados cherry, calabaza, strawberries in Florida, and a whole bunch more. So be sure to check that out. Like I said earlier, we are hoping to have one or more guests on here next Thursday. Something I've kind of gotten away from. Guys, there's 3 of us on here, and each one of us has our own little box. We can have 10 people on here. So we can have a whole bunch of guests on. And we can have live cameras. We can have people making smoothies in the other room, grilling iguanas. We can cover a bunch of topics on here all at once. So something we need to look at. And if you'd like to get more information or contact Colby, this is his link tree. So if you go there and you are a Hernando County resident and you'd like to get information about getting a rain barrel, that's where you go. That's where you're going to find the information. Or if you're a Hernando County resident and you'd like to sign up for a free compost bin, that's where you go for that also. We have those classes generally once a month, and we are in the process of scheduling them for the coming year. So we're working on it.
Yep. The next one's going to be, we actually don't have one in November, but there will be one at the very beginning of December, the 6th, I want to say it is.
Yes.
I haven't made the event for that yet, but if you go on that link that was just up, you go there, which is also in any of my socials. You can go there and sign up for the wait list, and as soon as it's ready to sign up for, you will get an email that will let you register for it. Register for it there. It's a really great program. I encourage everybody to come out. It's a good quality rain barrel. I think the price is good. And the compost bin, the price is really good there because it's free.
Can't be free. And if you live in a different county, like I know Bassem, I believe he lives in Seminole County, check with your local extension office. Look them up online. We all have phones. I got a phone. Teresa's got a phone out there. You can give them a call and say, hey, do you have any rain barrel classes, compost bin classes? What do you guys got going on? And I'm sure they'd be more than happy to tell you, because every office is different. We all have different programs, but we all have a lot going on. So check out what your local county extension office is doing and get plugged in and go ahead and go to a class. And remember, every Thursday morning at 10 a.m. or almost every Thursday morning at 10 a.m., we're going to be here. So if you're wondering, Alessandra, where's Bernie? Bernie's right here Thursday mornings. And Bernie, you're going to be here next Thursday?
I will.
You know what? I'm going to make it 2 weeks in a row. I'll be here again.
How about that?
I would like to say something nice about the utility department. You know,
Oh boy.
most counties, the utility department catches a lot of flack, but Alice is Colby's boss, and at one point we had a financial problem. We couldn't afford to have the agent in our office any longer. We were really up against it. Things were bad, and the utilities stepped up. Alice took over, uh, put actually Lily at the time, and then later Colby. But not only as she provided the office and kept it going, but she provided things that have made the office really a valuable asset to the community. And little things like the compost bin and the rain barrel. Those are things that uh, take advantage of them. It's your tax dollars and your utility dollars that have paid for them. They're great programs. We've got it's kind of an odd situation because the Florida Friendly thing in a lot of places is part of the extension office. In our county, it isn't, but it works so well together that all I can say is thank you. I really appreciate the way it has come together, and I've enjoyed operating with the Florida Friendly people for my God, it's close to 20 years now, 15 years, something like that. Thank you for being there, and thank Alice for making it possible, and thank the utility company for supporting the entire group. It's been a wonderful time, and make use of it. If you've got it in your community, uh, check out and see if they've got some programs. If you're in Florida, this is a really neat opportunity. You get free publications. There's a book on how to do landscaping, along with plant guide that's available. There's just so many things, and too many people don't take advantage of it. So like I say, we're always preaching to the choir, but on the off chance that you're new and you need some help, there's the man that can really help you out on your landscaping question. So with that said, been a nice time today, Bill. I thank you, and
Yes, it has been.
thank you, Colby, and we'll have to do it again next week.
Yes, sir.
Guys, I think we're going to wrap it up, and we will join you again next Thursday morning at 10 a.m. So please feel free to join us either live or watch the recording. I know people do a mixture of the two. So until next Thursday, you guys take care. Thank you. Bye.